Good evening. Welcome to Notre Dame. My name is Tom Kiley. I'm the president here. Just to welcome you this evening, sort of set a tone. In thinking about this process of college selection, here's, I guess, a quick question. How many of you have sort of been through this once? Okay, so there's a lot of sort of updating, but then there's also a lot of new stuff. Well, the key to any Catholic high school, really, is who our students become as people. And a big, big step on that way is how do we propel them into college? How do they envision where they are, and how will they succeed? And of course, the magic question, how do you afford all this? So, as we think about this, I want to just share a short story. My son is now almost 29 years old. We were walking in the town where he eventually went to college, and he just looks at me after an interview, and we were gone through the tour and everything, and he said, "How do you know?" And I had been in high school education for 30 years at that time. And I said, "Okay, I got to level with you. From your perspective, college is two things. It's a bunch of buildings, and it's an idea. It's an idea that's been cultivated here in the school, by you at home, and is germinating in your sons and daughters' imaginations about what they will become, who they'll become it with, and what will they do. Key things to remember for them, that a place has their interests and programs that they want. It's in a location that they like, that the relationships seem like that can be built on, and this one is pure imagination. Can you picture yourself being here? Or does it simply feel different to you? So that's part of the process that tonight we want to get you acquainted with, really. How do you discern all this? We're grateful for our partners, St. Norbert's College, and all of our own staff here, Ms. Highroth, who you met coming in, Ms. Bain, who is our Director of College Counseling and Career Counseling, Father Jordan, who I will introduce, and Mr. Eric Wagner from St. Norbert's College, who's the Associate Director of Admissions. So with that, there is much to learn, many questions to ask, I'm sure. Have a wonderful evening. It's been a pleasure to be with you. And I'd like to introduce Father Jordan Neek, our chaplain, to lead us in prayer.
So I have a little prayer for us from Thomas Merton, and he was a Trappist monk and a man of deep prayer, and often wrestled with discerning God's will. So it's only appropriate as we move and discern our future to reflect upon his words and his prayer. So let's begin. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. My Lord God, I have no idea where I am going. I do not see the road ahead of me. I cannot know for certain where it will end, nor do I really know myself. And the fact that I think that I am following your will does not mean that I am actually doing so. But I believe that the desire to please you does in fact please you. And I hope I have that desire in all that I am doing. I hope that I will never do anything apart from that desire. And I know that if I do this, you will lead me by the right road, though I may know nothing about it. Therefore, I will trust you always, though I may seem to be lost and in the shadow of death. I will not fear, for you are ever with me, and you will never leave me to face my perils alone. And so we pray for trust in God and an open mind and an open heart to receiving his grace to grow in wisdom and virtue and love, that as we discern our future, we may desire to do the will of God and to proclaim his gospel at all times. We make this prayer through Christ our Lord. Amen. Our Lady of the Bay, pray for us. Saints Norbert and Joseph, pray for us. Live Jesus in our hearts forever. May Almighty God bless you, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Father Jordan. That was very nice. In fact, that was one of my favorite prayers. Okay, so let Let me just find my glasses. Welcome, everybody. I'm so happy to see faces. Thank you very much for coming here in person. It really means a lot to us. So now that second semester is well underway, and that most seniors have applied to college. We have a little few stragglers, and now they're on to applying for scholarships. It is time for me to move to my attention to juniors, getting juniors ready for a busy senior year, full of academics, extracurriculars, the all-important social life, and then the added responsibility of career planning, college applications, and all of that future decision-making process. So a lot of adulting will happen senior year. So most colleges open on August 1st, college applications. So the more juniors can do right now and before senior year, the more they can concentrate on maintaining or raising their GPA. So senior year course selection, weighted classes, college loves to see, and a good GPA matter a lot to colleges. So I tell the students the rule of thumb is stretch yourself, but don't sink yourself. So stretch yourself with weighted classes, but also play a balance in that don't sink yourself. Don't take such hard classes that your GPA starts to tumble. So stretch, but don't sink. And there really is a fine balance to all of this. We don't want to push juniors really too much right now because they must keep a sharp eye on their GPA. Grades matter a lot, especially this second semester junior year. As students apply first semester senior year, the last set of grades that they're going to see is second semester junior year grades. So right now, it's critical for juniors to keep their GPAs up. So as a college counselor, I meet with juniors and seniors to help them plan for life after NDA. So together, we look at their transcripts, we discuss their GPA trend, their academic rigor, we talk about their future goals, we look at their career assessments, maybe they may take some different career assessments, but I really kind of get the vibe of who they are, and this gets the ball rolling on the students talking about themselves. So I ask a lot of questions, and what I'm looking for in students are their strengths, their interests, their passions, their personality traits, their values. And I do this not only for my own information so that I can fill out their academic forms that required colleges use, but also to help the students with their own self-narration skills. So most students guess that they must have some sort of strength, some sort of passions, values, but they never really sat down to think about what they might be. And nor do they really know how to talk about themselves and their passions, or to write about them. So self-narration skills are going to be huge when they apply to college. If you think about it, students are actually marketing themselves to colleges. So we also talk in our meetings about possible majors. We dive into what they are looking for, what colleges are looking for, and what students are looking for in colleges. I help them get started on researching colleges, nailing down their criteria for colleges, and we talk about application forms, deadlines, financial aid, everything that I will be talking to you about tonight. And also everything in the blue folder that you got when you came in. So thank you very much for that, Mrs. Hiroth. All juniors are currently getting this exact same presentation in junior advisory classrooms. So I only have actually 25 minutes to present to juniors. So I'll be spreading this presentation to juniors over 2 class periods. So they're getting this right now as well. And everybody received an email, I believe on January 19th from me with this presentation. This presentation is also being taped. And I emailed you all of the contents of the junior conference folders. So you should all be armed with information. So speaking of Mrs. Hiroth, and she's still out there being busy, but she is our student services office manager. She is very involved in all of this process. So while I'm meeting with your juniors, she's busy uploading and sending documents to colleges via Naviance, Documents like their transcripts, their letters of recommendation, all of their academic forms. She creates Naviance accounts. So if you want parents' Naviance account to shadow your students, please email Mrs. Hyroff. She also populates data in Naviance, helps with any issues regarding accessing Naviance. She makes student appointments, gets them passes. She pretty much does everything to keep the ball rolling in student services. So say hi. There she is, Mrs. Hyroth, okay? Also playing a very big supporting role in the college and career counseling is really the whole student services department. So our school counselors, our learning resource specialists, our learning professionals, they're all really passionate and dedicated in helping NDA students plan and succeed. So thank you, student services. We all as a team, I don't think we could do this alone. We all do this together. But really, the most important supporting role, thank you for being here, is you, parents and guardians. So thanks for working with us for a team to guide your teenagers in the right direction. So those are all the human resources that we offer. I always tell students, know your resources, and then have a bunch of them, and then make sure that you use your resources. So I tell them, build your dream team, who's gonna help you get to where you wanna go. So the most important non-human resources to use during these college and career planning journeys are, our Naviance, the College and Career Handbook. The handbook, I think, it's in your blue folder, and this is going to be actually pretty much your Bible to help you get through this whole college and career counseling journey. Essay handbook is also in there. The essay handbook is going to be huge. The Common App matching sheet, we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then the letter of recommendation request form. There's certain steps that students need to make in order to request letters of recommendation. That is really important as well. So, okay, Naviance. What is Naviance? It is an online college and career planning tool. It's document storage as well. So in Naviance are your child's GPAs, their ACT scores if they have any, and then also their transcript. And everything is in there behind the scenes so that we can send them to colleges if necessary. So how Naviance helps? Naviance helps them explore their strengths, their personalities, their career interests. It's a big organization and communication tool. And it helps them research colleges, send documents to colleges. What Naviance is not is it's not an application. So Naviance is used in conjunction with college applications. Naviance Registration, again, parents, if you need Naviance accounts, please email Mrs. Hyroff and she will create one for you. The parent Naviance account does not give you 100% of the functionality of a student account, and that's for a reason. So they want students to become autonomous. So I believe parents can suggest colleges that students can apply to, but they cannot actually put colleges in the student application list. Okay, and good news, 100% of all the juniors are registered for Naviance. In the handbook, you will find a wealth of information. I'm going to be going through all of these 4 steps to developing a college list. How to use Naviance, college application pieces, timelines, responsibilities, the college admission decision process, financial aid, and much more. So, 4 steps to developing a college application list. I always tell students, you can't find a good fit college if you don't know anything about yourself. So the first thing I want students to do is to get some self-knowledge. And also good news, so all juniors have taken the career interest profiler, and I've come into their advisory classrooms, we've talked about their results, and we've started looking at some careers and majors that might possibly be a fit for them. I always tell juniors also, and seniors, you guys do not have to have it all figured out by senior year. You do not have to declare a major. You don't have to know what you want to be when you grow up. But you have to have some idea of your strengths, your passions, and some direction where you want to go. Because the last thing I want to see seniors do is graduate from here, go to college, and then they're on the 5-year plan because they're experimenting and they have no idea what they want to do. So I really want them to have an idea of what they want to do and maybe don't want to do by the time they graduate Notre Dame. And then there are 5 more assessments that they can take. All right, and then Naviance career section, they can explore careers, and Road Trip Nation. Road Trip Nation is awesome. It's a whole bunch of videos that students can watch regarding, let's say, leadership, different career fields. It's really cool. And it's actually students interviewing leaders in their chosen professions. So after they learn about themselves, then they go on to developing an initial list of colleges. Initial lists are going to be big. They're going to be brainstormed. Just go ahead and start writing down all of the colleges, kids that you want to apply to, because it's just a brainstorming thing. You can go to Naviance Home and look up any college. You just type in the college, and it gives you all kinds of statistics. Average net price, graduation rate, student life. The end goal is to apply to no more than 10 colleges. That's what the experts say. Between 5 and 10, that's a sweet spot. Mrs. Highroth and I have about, well, let's see, the highest I think is probably 27 colleges for one person. That's a little bit stressful for these people. So I usually see tiers second semester when you have more than probably 15 colleges. Way too much. In the end, though, about 5 or 10, they should all be in colleges I'm applying to in Naviance, because Mrs. Highroth and I are always in there looking to see who is applying where, did we send their stuff, are there transcripts there, are there letters of recommendation there. So colleges I'm applying to is where everything should be as far as their college list. And they should have a few safety, middle, and reach schools. What that means, if the students type in a college on the homepage and it starts giving them all kinds of statistics, if they scroll down to the bottom, they will see how they compare with others who have applied to that college. So for instance, St. Norbert College, between a 3.17 and a 3.81 is pretty much the sweet spot in terms of GPA, according to Naviance. And if your student is a 3.6, they're right in the range there. If you scroll down a little bit more, you will also see the ACT. So that can tell them if the school is a safety, middle, meaning they might get in, maybe they might not, or a reach. It will be a reach for them to get in. Another tool they can use is called Supermatch. Supermatch is, again, in Naviance, and they can choose their fit criteria. So by that I mean, I start with, well, do you want to go in-state or out of state? Ask those big questions. Do you want public or private? So they can look at their criteria, and then the tool will actually start suggesting colleges to them. For instance, when I put my criteria in, it popped up with St. Norbert College, 92% fit score. So if I click on Y, it'll tell me the 92% of a fit and then why it's not 100%. It'll tell me that it's a safety school for me. And then if I like it, I can hit favorite, and it'll go to my colleges I'm thinking about. My colleges I'm thinking about, so now I'm in the research phase. Colleges I'm thinking about, lots of lists there that I can research. If I really love a college after I've researched it, and it's in colleges I'm thinking about, I'm going to click it and I'm going to say, move to my application list. So it'll move the college to my application list in Naviance for Mrs. Highroth and I to see. So step 3 is research. So again, after you brainstorm, you're going to have lots of colleges. Now it's time to do some deeper research to try to whittle that down, all right? So in Naviance, go to Home, and then again, Doc Resources, College Visits, and I want you guys to start visiting. I know they're watching me. So visit, and when you start visiting, everything is going to run together, all kinds of data. You're going to say, oh, I really liked those dorms, but I can't remember what college that was. So use these sheets, the college comparison worksheets, checklists. There are lots of folders in document resources on the Naviance homepage that you can go into and use during your research phase. Make sure that you guys use good resources, not just the college website. So college websites are pretty much promotional in nature. Everything looks wonderful and rosy on the college websites. Go beyond those. And I also do not use U.S. News and World Report and any of those other ranking. I don't really trust them a lot. And then there will be lots of links at the bottom of your Naviance homepage. You can use those links to research as well. My favorite book to research is colleges is called Rugg's Recommendations. Fred Rugg spent his whole life researching colleges across the nation. So it's not tied to ranking. It is actually a research book. Peterson's, Princeton, Fisk, those are all good as well. So step 4, now that you've done your research, juniors, you need to refine and finalize your list. So again, talk with family and friends, visit, and make sure that the colleges that you really want to apply to are listed in Colleges I'm Applying to in Naviance. All right, so college application pieces, let's move on to this. I explained to juniors, your college application isn't your whole application. It's a series of documents. We submit, so Mrs. Highroth and I, the students submit college application and test scores maybe, and we'll talk about that in a little while. NDA, so what we submit the transcript, the letters of recommendation, and any educational reports. Juniors, make sure you plan ahead. Sometimes when Mrs. Highroth and I hit that button and we send your transcript to a college, it can take up to 3 weeks to get to the college. It actually does go right to the college, but then they have to have somebody downloading it, and then they have to have somebody putting it in your file, and then they have to update your application tracker. Sometimes it takes 3 weeks, so don't wait until the last minute. Okay, another application piece. So let's talk about the application form. The form that you'll find are on the websites. And the number one mistake the colleges say students make is not slowing down to read the directions. So read your application directions carefully. Each college plays by their own rules, and so there are lots of things that they need or don't want. Some colleges want 3 letters of recommendation, some don't want any at all. Some colleges need a counselor recommendation, some don't want any at all. So make sure that you pay attention to the directions. So in order for colleges to give students choices, there's not just one application. I kind of wish there was, because it would make it a lot easier. When I click on, let's say St. Norbert College, they have the Spirit application, which is the institutional application. So that's only used for St. Norbert College. But then they also use the Common App. And you have your choice of using the Spirit application or the Common application. I'll talk about Common application in a second. There's also something called a Coalition application. If a college uses the Coalition application, that's fine. Go ahead and use it, and your student and I will work together to work through it. So using the Common application. Common App is an application that I would say little more than, I'd say between 900 and 1,000 colleges across the nation use Common App. One application, and you can send it to multiple colleges. The thing with Common App is that it's pretty long and involved, and it also requires more I guess, more pieces. It requires more essays, and it also requires more forms for me and more forms for the teachers to fill out. So if the student is applying just to one college and there's an institutional app that they can fill out, for instance, the Spirit app for St. Norbert College, definitely fill out the institutional application. It's going to be a lot faster. Do not fill out the Common App for only one college, because it will not save the student time. I would say a good rule of thumb, if you're applying to maybe 3 or more colleges that are on the Common App, then students, I want you to go ahead and use the Common App, because then it will save you time. Okay. And also Common App and Naviance. Let me just go back there for a second. Common App and Naviance can be matched together, should be matched together. So when your student and I meet, if we decide that or the student decides that they will use Common App, I will help them walk through the Common App matching process. There's also a Common App matching tutorial in your blue folder. What that does is it matches the two systems together so that students do not have to put their colleges in Naviance. It just feeds right into Naviance. That's really nice for the students. So let's talk about deadlines. Deadlines must be put in Naviance and must be correct. And the reason why I say this is that I've had students that want to apply early action, actually do apply early action, but then in Naviance, it says regular decision. So let's say November 1st, but it really says maybe January 1st. If we see January 1st, we're not going to be in any hurry to send the transcripts and the letters of recommendation. So a lot of things get missed if things aren't right in Naviance. So students, make sure that everything is right in Naviance. Let me know if you have questions. Early decision is a binding contract. That means, an early decision is usually, I would say November 1st, November 15th, somewhere around there. That is a binding contract, meaning if you apply ED, you go to and you get in, you go to that school and you withdraw all of your other applications. I would say probably between 5 or 6 maybe out of 200 seniors apply ED, not a lot. So ED is for sure 100%. If you have known since you were 5 years old that you want to go to that college, go ahead and apply to ED. If not, a lot of students apply EA. I would apply EA, and EA is early action November 1st. I would apply EA if I am happy with my current GPA senior year. So it would be 6 semesters, freshman year, sophomore year, and junior year. If I'm happy with my GPA the way it is, and I don't need another semester to boost it up, I will apply early action. The nice thing about applying early action is that you probably will know like around Christmas if you get in or not, or maybe a little bit after Christmas. Regular decision is usually winter-ish. Those are the students that just need another semester to bump up their GPA so that they can present the best application going forward. Also, maybe they need another test score under their belt. Maybe they just want to improve their GPA and ACT to put their best foot forward. So regular decision. The only thing with regular decision is that you don't hear until probably spring if you get in or not. But that's fine. I mean, a lot of times we get really hyped up here, probably at Notre Dame, but everywhere else too. Everybody wants to get in really fast. Students, I want you to do what's best for you and don't listen to anybody else. Do what's best for you. So, and restrictive early action is just early action with specific rules. Read the website to make sure. And then rolling usually means that colleges take applications right up until the first couple of weeks of college. Okay. Another college application piece, and this is embedded in the college application itself, is the essay. This college essay handbook that you have in your blue folder is going to be invaluable. It tells the do's and don'ts about writing a college essay. It tells about what colleges are looking for in the essay. Essays are going to be very important, especially now that most colleges, and Eric will talk about this in a little bit, well, I shouldn't say most, but a lot of colleges are test optional, meaning if you have your ACT or SAT scores, you can send it if you want, but if not, you don't have to, and you will not be penalized for that, it won't be held against you. So without those SAT or ACT scores, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I really think that colleges are turning their attention more towards the essay, because it's the student's own voice that is going to kind of flesh out who they are beyond all of their numbers. So the students should allow themselves to be known and just kind of like show how they are a fit for their college. Okay. Recommendation letters, again, in your blue folder, you will see the letter of recommendation process. But the first step to the recommendation process is creating a resume in Naviance. So to create a resume in Naviance, students, you go to About Me, which is in the upper right-hand corner, and then you click on Resume. The only thing with creating a resume in Naviance is that when you go to print it, if you want it nice and neat in one page, Naviance does not do that. So if you're using a printed copy, I don't mind at all. If you create it in Word and then save it as a PDF and then upload it in your journal, that's fine too. As long as the teachers and I can go into Naviance and see your resume, that's fine. So either create it using the Resume Builder tool, or you can upload it into your journal. And if you see About Me, Journal, and then you can add your PDF to that. All right. So once your resume is created in Naviance, students, think about who knows you the most. Think about your core academic teachers. Who can write you a letter that will tell the colleges what you're like in the classroom, how you approach learning, how engaged you are, if you show up on time, if you do your work, if it's absolutely fantastic. Who can tell those stories about you? That's what colleges want to hear. You should probably ask by the end of junior year, before you go on summer break, for one, maybe two teachers to write you a letter of recommendation. If they say yes, go into Naviance and make a request. How you do that is you go to colleges, and then you click on letters of recommendation. You'll see all of the teachers listed in Naviance. You click on your teacher, and if I were you, I would click on general request. So once they get in there, they're going to have two choices: either a general request, meaning that letter of recommendation is going to go to all the colleges that they're applying to, or they can be strategic about it, and if they have maybe two letters of recommendation, they can choose which letter of recommendation goes to which college, okay? Colleges are looking for quality, not quantity. In fact, a lot of times I see colleges not wanting letters of recommendation at all, which I think then even puts more importance on the essay. Waiving the FERPA rights. So I explained to students that FERPA rights mean that you get to see everything that we send to colleges, everything that we send out of Notre Dame Academy. It is your right to see that. That's called your FERPA rights. However, colleges do not want you to see your letters of recommendation. They think that if you don't see your letters of recommendation, that they're more authentic, and and so you need to waive your right to view your letters of recommendation. You can actually, you don't have to, but teachers can see whether you waive it or not. And if you say, no, I'm not going to waive my right, then the teachers come to me and say, why didn't this kid waive their right? So make sure that you waive your right to view your letters of recommendation. If you have any questions about that, let me know. Sometimes students will say, but that makes me a little bit nervous. I I don't know for sure if that teacher's going to say all these good things about me. Then I ask, well, then is that a good choice? Do you maybe want to ask somebody else who you know for sure will write you a good letter of rec? If they're still really nervous and they're sitting in front of me and they're just sweating, and then this has happened before, I'll pull up the letter, I will not show it to them, but I'll give them kind of a flavor of the letter. I'll say, okay, these are some of the words that the teacher has used. Oh my gosh, this is a glowing letter. Use it, definitely. So I'll ease their mind about that a little bit. Okay. Teachers actually put their letters of recommendation in Naviance, and then Mrs. Highroth and I send them when fulfilling the transcript requests. There is no button on Naviance that you can push that says, send my letter of recommendation. I wish there was. They go with the transcript. So make sure, students, when you want your letters of recommendation sent to colleges, you request your transcript. Okay, speaking of transcript, a transcript, seniors or juniors to be seniors, is a letter, it's a record of your classes and grades. So it is sent after submitting your application. If you want to see your transcript, like right now, before we meet, you can email Mrs. Highroth, and she will send you a PDF of your transcript. So it lists all your grades, everything that you've been doing academically at NDA for the last 3 years. Transcripts get sent after submitting your application, and colleges must be in colleges I'm applying to. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay. Another college application piece, standardized test score. Like I said before, lots of colleges are going test optional. Actually, that's supposed to be March 8th. So March 8th is the all-school, here at NDA, ACT test. If you're planning on sending your ACT scores, I would at least get maybe 2 or 3 ACT scores, unless, of course, you ace the first one, and then you don't have to do any more. But get a few scores under your belt before senior year hits. The most important thing to remember, students, is that you own your test scores. We can see your test scores, but in order for you to send your official test scores to colleges, you have to do it yourself. You have to go on to act.org and send the colleges your test scores. NDA does not send test scores. So ACT goes through act.org, and SAT is through the College Board. If you want to see the differences between the ACT and the SAT, make sure, again, you go into that doc resources, and I believe it says tests. Yeah, you'll find it. I think it says ACT or SAT tests. All right. Now imagine me giving this to all juniors. Like right around this time, I look and some juniors are falling asleep. Some are just like looking way past me. So I tell them, take a deep breath. I just threw a lot of information at you. Let's step back and look at the big picture. Okay, so what do you do first? You research yourself. You research colleges. You develop that all-important college list, college application list. After you have your list, juniors, what you do is you decide which form you will use. You make sure everything is in Naviance. You create your resume. You look at your letter of recommendation and see who's going to write that. You complete and submit your application. Again, applications open, most of them, on August 1st. After your application is submitted, you go into Naviance, you make that request for a transcript to be sent. Mrs. Highroth and I look in there, we see your request, we grab your transcript, we grab your letters of recommendation, I grab any forms that the colleges require, and I can see that on my end. I see all of the forms that some colleges require, some don't require any at all. We grab all that information and we send it off electronically through Naviance to all of the colleges. Students can see in their application trackers and on Naviance what we submitted and if we submitted and which documents we submitted. So they will have transparency to that. And then send your ACT or SAT scores if required. So college admission process. So that's the college application process. Now let's hop over to college admissions. And Eric Wagner is going to flesh this out a little bit more. But admitted, accepted, so congratulations, you're in. Deferred, postponed means, let's see how you, so you're an institutional fit. So the colleges are saying, yes, I like what I see in you, but let's see what next semester's grades are. Can you hold your grades? So that's deferred, postponed. Waitlisted means, yes, we like what we see, you're an institutional fit, but we don't have a bed for you. So if space opens up, they start pulling off the wait list. And denied, I always tell students, is not about you. I think college admissions can be very subjective, and I always say there is a college out there for you, and we will find it. We'll find it together. Okay, and this is way down the line, but deferred waitlisted, you can find that in doc resources as well, what to do if you're deferred or waitlisted. Okay. So financing colleges, again, Eric will talk more about this, but FAFSA is the free application for student aid, and that opens October 1st. You fill out FAFSA each year you are going to college. CSS profile, you can fill that out sometime. You can talk about that, I think, yeah. And then private and local scholarships, those are all found in Naviance. You can go to colleges, scholarship list, and I think Mrs. Hyroth and I are up to probably 93 or 94 local and private scholarships that students can apply to. So again, go into Naviance, look at scholarships, and it's really not too early to just go in there and browse and look and see what's out there. And we're constantly updating those. Okay. So again, more details in the document resources and in the handbook. So timelines, responsibilities, all of that, again, you're going to find it in the handbook. Happening right now, like I said, are junior conferences, college night, when to do what, all of that's in the handbook, as well as gap year considerations. When I talk about gap year, that kind of drives parents crazy. I'm seeing more and more interest in gap year. I don't know if it's because of COVID or what, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I always tell students if they mention gap year, I want them to apply to college first, get their acceptances, and then ask for a deferral for a year. So at least they have college acceptances, and then they can go next year. That makes parents feel a little bit better, and me too. Gap year also should be strictly planned. It can't just be, oh, I'm just gonna go find myself. It should be organized. So if you happen to go down that road with your child, let me know and we can do it together. And then as well as youth apprenticeship, armed forces, all that stuff is in your handbook. Okay. Eric also will talk about this, what colleges want. But GPA is number one, first and foremost. Colleges are academic institutions. They want to know, can you succeed at my college? Can you pass all my classes? ACT, SAT, maybe. Academic rigor is huge. So weighted classes, that's going to be critical. I have seen Madison deny 4.0 students with no weighted classes. So weight is a big deal. Again, though, don't sink yourself. Stretch yourself, but don't sink yourself. And you guys need to find that balance for yourself, students. Colleges are wanting to know, are you an institutional fit? So talk about that in your essays. Talk about what in you can match the colleges. Why are you good for that college? It's kind of a little bit like dating. Okay, and you have to talk to the college and say, oh, I would be so good for you because of this and this. All right. Super Tutor TV is a YouTube channel that I watch all the time. So check that out. You will be getting a lot of information off of that. So let's see. And these are good videos to watch as well. So now I want to address some of the questions that people have asked. All right. So question number 1, how do I start looking for colleges? Use the 4-step process that I told you about. Remember, research yourself, brainstorm, research colleges, and then start refining that list down. Ask yourself the big question again, in-state or out-of-state, large, medium, or small, and then visit. So how many colleges should I apply to, and how do I narrow down my list? I think we pretty much have talked about all of that. Only apply to colleges that you know that you will attend if you are accepted. So please don't apply to colleges just to see if you can get in. The reason why I say that is that time management is going to be key in senior year. So I would rather have students studying for a test that's going to be really important, that will impact their GPA, rather than applying to colleges that they aren't going to even go to. They just want to see if they can get in. Make sure, students, that the colleges I'm applying to list has only colleges you're applying to. If it's got extra colleges and you're like, oh yeah, I was going to apply to this, but now I'm not, I'll just leave it in Naviance. Please don't leave it in Naviance. So when Mrs. Highroth and I look at colleges I'm applying to, and we go through all the seniors, looking at everything, if I see a kid that has like 5 colleges, we haven't sent anything, that kind of freaks us out. And we're contacting you, and then sometimes if you send your application but then you don't follow up with all the supporting documents, colleges are contacting you. And so make sure that you keep Naviance nice and clean with only colleges that you will be applying to. So the next question that I received is, what is the best time to take the ACT? So after you study, basically. But the prep resources are either at that table, but then you can also find ACT and SAT prep resources in Naviance Doc Resources. ACT dates, March 8th, April 2nd, June 11th, and July 16th. All of the dates are on act.org. Okay, and the next question I received, are colleges using ACT for 22-23? If test optional, would you recommend sending scores, even if they say it has no bearing? So I would say if the composite score is within or above the acceptance range, go ahead and send it. And the reason why I say that is that sometimes scholarships and direct entry programs are tied to test scores, and I wouldn't want you to miss out on that. So if you're within or above that threshold, obviously you can go ahead and send it. Okay, so the next question, what colleges provide reciprocity? Wisconsin, Minnesota Reciprocity, so Minnesota does, and you can find that on it's called the HEAB website, HEAB, and that's the Higher Education Aids Board website. What I did is I just Googled Wisconsin, Minnesota Reciprocity. If you're not sure if you're on the right website, just email me. And then there's also Midwest Exchange Program. Again, you can Google that, but that is a program with participating colleges in the Midwest that actually promise not to charge you over 150% of the in-state tuition, right? Okay, yep, I think that's it. Or of the out-of-state tuition, no more than 150% of the out-of-state tuition. So check out the Midwest Exchange Program. So the next question is, comment on application process for out-of-state colleges. So like the University of Utah, somebody said, and other popular colleges. So out-of-state colleges, a lot of them use the Common App, but some of them use their own institutional app. So just go online, look up the college, go to applications, and it will tell you how to apply. California is a little bit different. Make sure, students, if you're applying to California colleges, that you read the directions carefully. There's a lot of self-reporting that goes on with colleges in California, and it can be a little bit tricky, so come into my office and we can walk through that together. But no matter what, when you're filling out your applications, if I were you students, I would email Mrs. Hiroth and get a copy of your transcript. You're gonna have all your grades there, you're gonna have all your classes, and it's gonna be really easy for you to do it with everything right there. Application timelines, that's the next question. When to start the Common App? So again, August 1st, Common App opens, UW app opens. But what you can do right now, number one, concentrate on your GPA. Make sure that you continue your extracurriculars. You can practice writing your essays. Make sure that you start your resume, letter of recommendation. Think about that. Start developing relationships with teachers. And then start doing some college research. So the next question, what support is offered through NDA to complete applications? First semester senior year, I hold what's called college application workshops. We hold that up in the Priory. Mrs. Hiroth helps me out with these workshops. And it's a time for students to come in and we can answer any questions that they may have. It's pretty much of a mob scene before November 1st. And so what students figured out is that they started helping each other. And now it has turned into a really cool workshop. I really like those workshops because we have a lot of good conversations. So seniors, first semester, make sure that you show up at college application workshops. I do those twice a week. And then, of course, one-on-one appointments with me, or you can email me. The thing about one-on-one appointments with me, so remember, I've got like 200 juniors and 200 seniors and everybody asking me questions. So sometimes I'll have students in my office and they'll be like, can you help me with my application? Yes, but you guys have to read the directions. You're pretty much, I want you to be self-directed and I'll be here to help you if you have questions. And then sometimes I have students saying, okay, and then they say, name, address, and then I'm like, you have to be quiet while you're in here. I'm here for just questions. So yes, I support them. They can email me anytime and we'll do it together. So the next question, when should we be looking for scholarships? Again, you can browse now, but usually scholarship season, so seniors are in scholarship season right now, but I'm not gonna say that scholarship season is 100% now because some scholarships are early. So again, go into the scholarships in Naviance and start browsing to look at those and prepare for them. But scholarship season is typically late fall, early winter, and into winter. So the last question I have, is there a sample document outline for writing to best make myself stand out from the rest? A list of do's and don'ts, websites to reference for direction on composing my college applications. What a great question. So essays, again, are what distinguish a student from others. I'm working with people right now that are deferred from Madison. And so I'm asking the question, okay, so what distinguishes you from everybody else who has a 3.8 GPA? And so we really try to tug out what is the distinguishing factor. And again, we're diving deep into their hearts, their souls, their passions. What is special about you? So think about those things again. Watch Super Tutor TV. That is a great resource. And another resource that I use is IvyWise. So it's ivywise.com. So those are all of the questions that I've received via the registration process. So I think we are ready for Eric Wagner to come up. Eric Wagner is the Associate Director of Admissions for St. Norbert College. And he and I have been working together for about 7 years. And you will be glad to know that he is a much more dynamic speaker than me. I want to speak like you. So here you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Becky stole most of my material, so in the next 10 to 12 minutes, we're going to get out of here quick to have dinner. It's all going to be fine. That was great. That covered literally most of my material. So I'm going to dive a little bit more in depth. I've been at St. Norbert this is my 16th year after graduating from St. Norbert College. My wife, Sam, and I have gone through Catholic education since first grade. Happy Catholic Schools Week, by the way. It was Sunday, 4 days ago. Nervous, excited, prepping my son with interview questions as we're about ready to write his essay, what I thought he needed to do to apply for his Grace first grade application. And then my wife says, "Oh, we're fine, I just applied." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So that was our first kind of nervous wreck with applying to school. So I kind of feel like I'm where you guys are at right now. I know it's going to fly by. And over my 16 years, I've talked to so many different families. Every single week, it's so different. I talked to a family a couple weeks ago. It was their 6th and last student, and they pretty much said, "Eric, we know everything. Here's the 4 questions we need to know about St. Norbert. Great, let's get to lunch. We heard you got good food." Yep, perfect. The majority of families, parents haven't gone to college. This is their first baby headed off to college. They know just as much about the FAFSA as their son or daughter do, and I'm here as a resource. Whether you're absolutely 100% in on St. Norbert College or have no interest in staying in the Green Bay, Brown County area, totally okay. I love that Becky used so many St. Norbert pictures and examples, and that's great. I totally understand there are a lot of other fish in the sea and other colleges, and I'm here to help you. I'm about as even keel as it gets in regards to saying, hey, we check off a lot of boxes at St. Norbert College for a lot of students. It also happens to be 8 minutes down the road from where your parents live, and that may be a little too close. I totally get it. Or could it be a perfect opportunity to live on campus and have a wonderful experience at St. Norbert? But I'm here to talk about college in general. What you should be doing right now, when you should be applying, the right questions to ask, the good, the bad, and the ugly of essays and resumes and things that I've seen in my time so that you can hopefully steer clear of a lot of those things and start telling your buddies and your parents' friends that you're all set and you're deciding on a college by Christmas of this year and it's all going to be smooth sailing. What you should be asking us as admission counselors when you go visit colleges, and then obviously financial aid. When does that hit? What are good questions to ask? What should you be filling out and be ready for in regards to documents to move forward to be prepared for that? Okay. Who's visited a college campus already? Who's been on an official college tour? Okay, all right. COVID is officially not an excuse anymore. We have been open since June 8th of 2020. We all went home, March 15th, March 16th. We opened for full college tours at St. Norbert 3 months later. We've been every single weekday and weekends giving full tours to our campus. UW-Madison has tours in groups. You can't see residence halls right now, but you can start visiting college campuses. Please visit them now. Spring break's a really good opportunity. The summer can be. Everyone gets a tan on the tour. It's a really nice time. You get outside. You get to see cool cities, but nobody is there. Well, I want to fit in. I want to see what these students look like. Do they look like me? Are they walking to class? Are they excited? Do they hold doors open for students and seem like they genuinely want to be there? Doesn't happen in the summer. At Madison, at Milwaukee, everyone's in the city, but you don't know who's a student, who's affiliated with the college or the university. So you want to see what it's like when school is in session. Conveniently for most colleges and universities, we do this on purpose. Spring break is usually over St. Patrick's Day. I usually get a lot more reaction from that, but there's obvious reasons why we don't want our students on campus on St. Patty's Day. So if you have spring break, Easter break around that time, or outside of those times, definitely start looking for college campuses and tours to see what it's really like, if it's a place that you could see yourself going to. I'm a first-generation college student. My parents didn't go to college. My mom was way more excited about visiting colleges than I was. Who's gotten any type of college material in the mail so far? Has anybody? Pretty much everybody. It's not because your parents secretly went on to college websites and signed you up for requests for information forms. If anyone has taken the ACT or SAT yet, or I don't know, the PSAT, or have gone on the websites to try to win anything and have signed you up with your information, guess what? We buy that information as a college. The ACT and SAT does not make hardly any of their revenue on you paying to take the ACT. We buy your name for 48 cents, and we say we want every Wisconsin student with a 20 or above in the ACT who said that they don't want to go too far from home and they want to go to a smaller school, less than 5,000 students. Eric, that's 14,000 names. Beautiful. Here's my credit card. Send me all their information so we can start pummeling you with amazing, pretty photos, aerial shots, and start just stuffing your mailbox, starting typically sophomore year of high school. That's where that's all coming from. Especially when you take the ACT coming up, you will start getting information from colleges and universities across the United States you have never heard from. But you saw that pretty picture on the last page or the cover, and you think, maybe I do want to go there. That's kind of interesting. Let's go set up a family vacation to Montana and start looking at some of these colleges. It sometimes happens. When families come to visit, the first question I ask them is, why St. Norbert? How have you heard of St. Norbert College? And let's say 4 out of 10 families say, oh, I got this great mailer. And I'm like, well, we're going to keep sending that. Perfect. Awesome. That's exactly what everyone wants to hear, is you will continue to get more and more mail from us. So anyway, go back to Eric, junior year of high school, and we're getting a ton of mail, and my mom is looking at all this, and she's like, we're going to visit every single school you got mail from, Eric. I said, great. So we visited 16 colleges and universities over spring break, junior year, and the summertime. My dad had to work, so he didn't go to nearly as many tours as my mom and I did. My mom had the 3-ring binder up in the front, really excited, taking notes. I was in the back looking at wildlife, the student body. And by the 4th or 5th tour, I knew exactly what size of school, maybe the distance from home, that was going to be perfect for me. I visited Madison. I want to be a Badger. Half of my aunts and uncles went there. It wasn't the right fit for me. I went to a small Catholic high school in Wausau, and we graduated 60 in my senior class, and I sat in a lecture hall the size of this room, and it was bigger than my high school times 3. And I'm like, this just isn't the right fit. I need to sit in the back row, which is the 3rd row of class, and still be able to raise my hand and ask questions. And going to St. Norbert, I'm exactly 2 hours on the head from getting my fix of Big Ten basketball, football, and hockey once a year. And the beauty of it is I could go home Sunday night and actually get work done, yada, yada, yada. So the last school I visited, the 17th school, was St. Norbert College. And this is why what Tom had said before, and Becky as well, is just getting that feel, that gut reaction of what the right college might be. My buddy Jordan, good buddy of mine, said, hey, my older sister Steph, I've got to drop some stuff off on campus in Green Bay at St. Norbert. Do you want to come this weekend? And I said, oh, good, like your good-looking older sister Steph? He's like, yes. I said, I would love to go. Sure, let's go. So we drive over. Had never gotten mail from St. Norbert. Walked around campus and said, why haven't I known about this school before? This is gorgeous. This is like a little Notre Dame without a golden dome. Like, I think I could really see myself on this campus. I wasn't crazy. I brought my parents back a month later. It was pouring rain outside, and I got the same reaction. And my dad came along and said, like, your body language is different. Do you like this place? And I said, yeah, I really do. It's checking a lot of boxes off on my list. And he's like, okay, well, let's keep going down the line. Let's start applying to colleges. So I applied to 4 colleges out of the 17 that I visited, got admitted to all of them, and I'm getting ahead of myself with my slides. But the thing that I always tell students too is if you're at a 3.0 or above at Notre Dame Academy, you're getting admitted to 95% of the colleges in Wisconsin. Like, there were only 3 colleges that filled the last couple years: Madison, Eau Claire, and La Crosse. Every other school, if you would have applied the week before college started and you had a decent grade point average, they were admitting you and getting you going on the plan to start class on time that next week. So keep that in mind. I also love Notre Dame Academy. It's an amazing school. It's difficult. We all know this. It has a great curriculum. Students that might be a hair below a 3.0, I still know are going to be better prepared at the next step in college than students at maybe some other schools, public schools, some of them, that might be in the top 25% of the class and be a hair above a 3.0. We know that, and colleges know that. They know the reputation of Notre Dame Academy and how their students have performed at their college and university, and that's things that we look at as we're going through the college application season, okay? Becky talked a lot about this. She loves November 1st. It's like Christmas come early in her office. I'm joking because all of a sudden, boom, it's November 1st. As she mentioned as well, almost every college opens their college application on August 1st of this summer for you students. Then, a couple years ago, a couple colleges in the Midwest said, why should we do August 1st when we can open July 1st? So we have to keep up with the Joneses, so now most of us open July 1st. Then there's one school south of Milwaukee that say, well, why should we open July 1st? We can catch juniors and get their high school transcripts before the junior year ends. So then we have that, so when they apply, we can get them admitted right away. Yikes. Okay, the summer is great for starting to apply to colleges, but honestly, September and October are our biggest months for students to apply. You're getting into senior year, you're big dogs on campus at NDA, and now it's time to start looking into what that next step's going to be for making those college applications a reality. All right? We're rolling admission. Most colleges in the United States are rolling admission, which means that once we receive your application, your transcripts at the very least, and then some other pieces that they may be requiring, like letters of recommendation, essays, resumes, they'll start to review it right away. We start to review applications and start admitting students on August 1st. Our application opens July 1st. There's already students on July 10th saying, why haven't I been admitted yet? Okay, well, Becky's down in Cancun having a great time because it's the summer, so ease up a little bit. It's fine. There's usually Mrs. Hyroff or someone else in the school that's getting graduated senior final transcripts out to colleges to make sure that they graduated and that they graduated with the grade point average that was typical that we saw when they applied. But there's plenty of time. It's okay. It's before November 1st, right? And with rolling admission, it just stays in limbo of incomplete until we get everything completed. That brings up another thing. Students, you are now taking the lead on this next step. This is probably the biggest decision of your life up till this point, right? To colleges, you are also the person that's going to class, that's going to be probably living on campus, talking to faculty, talking to staff. Everything is going to be sent to you, students. Parents, I know, your jaws are just gaped wide open. I can see it behind your masks. You are not going to get as much information as you think from us. If there's something missing on your application, every single week, it's automated. We're going to email the student saying, hey, go back into your application portal because something's missing. We can't say it in the email typically, just like as we get to financial aid. If there's a piece missing, a document missing, it's going to the student. It's not going to the parent. Hey, there's something missing, log into your FAFSA, log into your financial aid portal because there's something missing. It could be a copy of your parent's 1040. It could be your parent's W-2, but we don't send that information to the parent. We send it to the student. About every other month, if it's not done yet, we'll then send an email to the parent saying, hey, we've been sending this information to your student. You might want to ask them why they haven't gotten a financial aid package from us yet. It's because there's some items missing. Have your student log into their account. Okay? I know that's hard to believe, but that's how it's going to work. Okay? I'm getting way ahead of myself still. Early decision, Becky talked a lot about too. With early decision and early action, there's honestly only about 450 universities and colleges in the United States that use that, all right? A lot of them, early decision, it's even smaller, especially the East Coast, the West Coast. The most selective colleges are using early decision. Like Becky said, it's a handful of students at Notre Dame Academy that are looking at those schools and thinking about early decision. There's pros and cons to everything. With early decision, you're putting all your eggs in that basket saying, if I get admitted, I'm going to this school and paying what the financial aid package is going to be. Any college that says we will cover 100% of the family need, the only school in Wisconsin that does that is Lawrence. They have a large enough endowment that whatever your FAFSA comes out to be is the financial aid package that they're going to build. While that also then includes the CSS profile that gets way more invasive with your income and your bank statements and assets and benefits and non-taxed income than the FAFSA even asks, which is, again, why they want to protect their endowment by finding out how much you really can afford versus the FAFSA, which has some shades of gray. I'm getting way ahead of myself again. Early decision, a lot of schools have fired back and said it's almost exactly the same percentage of students that are getting admitted as students that are applying regular decision. So there really isn't that much of an added benefit. It helps the colleges know, okay, this is really where you want to be. So we might look at you a little bit more. It's helpful. You want to know sooner than later. A lot of type A students want to know yesterday if they got admitted to the college that they've been planning on the last 10 years when they got to middle school. And other students have most of senior year to really figure this out. There's plenty of time. Ask the questions that you need. There are no dumb questions, just dumb that you didn't ask. Please ask the questions to Becky, to myself, to any other admission counselor or teacher to help get you the right answers. Okay? You covered a lot of that too, Becky. December, rolling admission is immediate. So rolling admission is typically 2 or 3 weeks after we've collected all the materials, is when you'll get what I call the happy packet in the mail saying, congratulations, you're in. Welcome to XYZ College. That is an invitation to the party. Like, hey, we would love for you to come to our party for 4 years, and only 4 years. But you don't really know how much that party costs yet. And that's when we get to financial aid a little bit later. Okay, Becky talked a lot about this too. There's different ways to apply. The top 3 lines here are pretty much what's the most popular. You've got every college having their own application, which we've built ourselves on our website in our portal. You've got the common application, which again is almost 1,000 colleges and universities. It's really just a way to pay to play for colleges. They want to be in the room where it happened. If you're going to apply to multiple schools, we want to be on that list so that you can see us and click and make it easier. I totally agree. Over 3 schools, it'll take you an hour and a half. You don't even want to see the work that Ms. Bain has to do on her end, not only when you apply, but at semester, as well as with teachers as well. I mean, we're talking 12, 15 pages of additional material when right about this time once you get into the second semester. The UW application then too, you're applying once and then clicking all the UW schools you want it sent to. The Coalition and the Universal are just, again, groups of more select colleges that if you're looking, okay, I'm headed to Connecticut, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, here's a couple of them that I can apply to just by filling out one application. Okay, application online. You don't file an application by paper anymore because everything is going right into our database. You're pretty much creating a profile that's going to jump you into an admission portal. Every single school is going to be different, but a lot of schools have what's called Slate. Slate is our database, our CRM that we use, and this is an example, for instance, of what St. Norbert looks like. So this is kind of like for the next 3 slides, like a scrolling portal that students see after they apply. So you would have your admit letter right inside there so that you'd be able to see it right away, print it off, send it to grandma, all that good stuff. We always pick a different Disney character, so it's Daisy Duck this year. You're scrolling down and you're seeing a different checklist of things that you can do. If you have needed anything else to upload to your application, you would see right there where you would just upload it right there, either a syllabus of a class, a resume, things like that. And then, of course, I'm an elite, Daisy is an elite men's basketball prospect. So, of course, Coach Gary Gresh is really on top of Daisy Duck to be our new center next year. And then, of course, you have your admission counselor, good-looking guy, Eric, with his information to be able to correspond with me with any questions. This is also where then you'd have a link right to your financial aid package, and everything is right there in your portal, which is really, really convenient. Transcripts sent from the high school, simple one page by the years of your classes and your grades, other information about Notre Dame that we all want to know. I put IB and honors there because there was a question about whether you should take more IB and honors classes or take an easier course load. And Becky hit it on the head. It depends, especially by the school. I'm a proponent, and I think most are, where the GPA still is king, where you don't want to drop your GPA by taking a full IB course load. There's a really good example that I use in central Wisconsin, Marshfield High School. That high school has an AP class for every single test. So you have this interesting kind of petri dish of students that are prepared to take 12, 14, 15 AP classes over their course of their high school 4 years and can handle it. And then they have their friends that have to try to do that too to stay in the game, and they end up flunking. And it was a total waste of time for them to even think that they could try for that. It's a lot of work. At UW-Madison, they're not going to take 50 students from Notre Dame Academy. They have the historical documentation. They have to spread it out. They're the flagship school in Wisconsin. So they know about how many students that they're going to admit from NDA. They're not going to take everybody from one high school. They're going to spread it out. So knowing that, okay, let's try to keep this GPA up from what I can handle, but also looking at the curriculum that you're taking as well. The beauty of Notre Dame Academy is that you're taking so many core classes all 4 years. I talk to so many high school students that say, hey, I'm visiting your high school in the fall in the afternoon. And they always say, well, I leave at lunchtime. Like, I could have graduated high school with my 24 credits at the end of junior year, except for my one English class that I have to take senior year. I never had that chance to leave high school early, maybe a couple minutes early to catch the bus or a ride from a buddy or for sports at 2:45 in the afternoon. But I could never leave early because I was taking all these core classes. The UW system, especially Madison, usually has an average of saying if you took 7 courses a year of core, that's typically the average of what an incoming first-year student has at UW-Madison. That's taking 4 years of math, 4 years of science, 4 years of social science, of history classes. That's not always the norm. A lot of students say, well, I just need this to graduate. Fine, but you're probably not going to get admitted to Madison because you're doing the bare minimum, thinking that by graduating from high school that you're going to get into your top choices with a good grade point average as well. So really good things to ask when you start visiting those colleges on what a typical student looks like going to that college. ACT and SAT scores. Yeah, I mean, this was kind of our window, the silver lining of COVID, if you will, with higher education. None of us have really liked standardized test scores. I mean, there's so much documentation and data out there that says it's just not a good resource to see how a student is going to perform in college compared to the last 4 years of the classes they've taken and how they've performed in those classes. So a lot of schools, as they don't want to venture into the unknown of saying we're always going to be test optional, a lot of schools are going to a 3-year or a 5-year. And then they're going to look at it or reassess it then. St. Norbert is year to year. Standing up here today in February, I can't tell you if we're going to be test optional next year, but I would put my own money on it that we are going to be test optional, because in a few short months, you're going to be applying to colleges, and we're going to have to make a decision on that fairly soon. But for the UW system, for UW-Madison, they've gone to 2025. I think the rest of the UW system is in the same boat, at least to 2023, which is your class year. So things to kind of think about. I would agree, too, that based on the average student coming into that college or university is when you should send it. If you have questions, call us or call an admission counselor at that school. I still shake my head every time I see a student that applies that is good from day to day on their GPA, maybe a 3.75, but they had a 15 or a 16 on the ACT. Thank goodness that they had clicked that they don't want it reviewed, but I still see it, and I just kind of say, why was it sent? Things to definitely keep in mind as you're starting to apply to colleges. But on the other hand, it does help some students who maybe are naturally smart but don't think they need to really show up in class from day to day. Homework is not fun, so why do it? But I get A's on my exams or test type students, a 3.0, but they hit a 30 on the ACT. Yes, definitely send that then. That is definitely going to help you. Letters of recommendation. There are some schools that require that the letters of recommendation are from a core class teacher. So that's your typical English, history, science, math, religion. Mrs. Brown is only one woman. Get to her this spring, just like Becky said. We don't care what the date stamp is on the letter of recommendation, just that you have it and it's really well written. Pick the right teacher. Make sure you have enough information for them to write a great letter. We call them many times form letters, where I'm not going to name certain schools in the city, but there's a couple popular teachers at other schools that just send me the form letter. Like, I could have brought some tonight, where they wrote 12 letters of recommendation to these students applying to St. Norbert. It's exactly the same letter except 3 sentences, which include what they're involved in, and then their names every once in a while in different paragraphs. Mrs. Brown's excellent, by the way, as you should expect. She's awesome. Resume. A lot of times, as I had mentioned, you can upload all this information. I think you might have mentioned it, Becky, but for a lot of the applications, they only provide maybe 3 lines of information that you're involved in for extracurriculars, for activities, for groups, for after-school sports, things like that. And students naturally think, we just want to see their top 3 things that they're involved in. Obviously not true. There's this tiny little plus sign that keeps adding more and more lines below it. There's literally something called click fatigue, where students just get tired of adding more things, so they stop. Not wise. A resume of things, of what you've been involved in, of volunteer hours, of musicals, and employment. Every single adult that starts applying to different jobs based on what the job description is has or should have different resumes that's more pertaining to that job. Same at colleges and universities. Depending on if you're going there to the certain school because of the certain major, because you're going to the school because they're huge into service, it's different things that you want to stand out to be able to let us see that there is this professional document that's attached that I would rather read than even my own application that I'm reading through to see what you're involved in, okay? And then essay. I love reading essays, but also don't make it the 8th Harry Potter book or an extension of the Iliad. This is 400 to 600 words total, max. Like, pack a punch. You don't have to add, make the periods larger or make it a little bit more of an extension to make it longer past a page. I honestly don't care how long it is, just that it packs a punch and makes sense, and it makes me want to keep reading through a page or 2 pages double-spaced again, all right? There's some schools that have a maximum of 500 words. Like, that is honestly, 4 to 5 paragraphs, depending on the length of paragraph. Don't make it too long. Also, don't talk about the winning touchdown. Don't talk about, I mean, really sports related is what we get way too much. Talk about an opportunity that you seized. Talk about how you tripped and fell and got back up the 8th time. Talk about why this is the college that you really want to attend. All right? Also, send it to the correct school. It happens every single week. Every single week. That's why I choose to attend your prestigious university, Carroll. I'm like, great. But I'm Norbert, not Carroll. So I'll call my friend at Carroll and said, hey, did you get Becky's application? Yeah. Hers said, well, what did her essay say? It said it said UW-Madison. I'm like, great. I'll call my friend Dave at Madison. I'm like, Dave, did you get Becky's application? Yeah. Yeah. She made my life easier. She obviously didn't read her own essay. It was easy to move along and waitlist her. You have to read the materials that you're sending and make sure that you're getting other people to read it too. Oh my gosh, the grammatical errors and the misspelled words. Sometimes Becky invites me to the senior seminar in the fall where I even bring a packet called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly of bad essays and how a couple wrong words can really screw up where an essay can kind of take a student. And it could only be a couple sentences maybe as well. Make sure that it makes sense and it's something that you really want to send to someone like me who's going to be reading it. Okay, this is pretty self-explanatory. Please call us. On my business card is my cell phone number. Students, I know you don't like to talk on the phone. Text me. That's fine. We're eventually going to talk on the phone because that's important, right? There's these things called Zoom, Google Meet. We can talk through that as well too. I can't tell you how excited I am when a student calls. When after a tour, I'm meeting with a student and a parent or two, and the student takes the lead and has a list of questions prepared to ask me. Like, I don't even want to sit down. Like, I want to get excited. I want to talk to you about college because you're the one who actually seems invested in this. Your parents didn't drag you there. Parents, I know you're excited, and you have the 3-ring binder to ask questions. Hand it to the student because they're the one that's going to be there, and whether they're going to have a good time, a miserable time, if they're going to want to walk to class, if it's the right fit for them, okay? Get to the point. Please just ask us outright what you're looking for. Again, there's no dumb questions. Ask us anything. I have a parent that emails me, I think every Monday at 10 o'clock. Like, I'm in her calendar to email me the questions that she's thought of over the weekend. That's totally fine. I'm expecting it now. We have a chuckle in the office, yes. But it's just great that she knows she can come to me with certain questions about even like what are the length of the beds for bed sheets. Like Grandma Beth wants to know. They're extra long sheets, by the way, at pretty much every school, one size fits all. And the last one's huge too. When I was talking about Slate, our CRM, I log every single email, every single text, every single phone call, every single visit on campus. If I see your student at Notre Dame Academy on my college visit, everything goes in there, which is important to us because we know how invested the student is. It is hugely important at more selective schools as they're starting to use almost a ranking system or a point system to see how invested you are. Did you fly out to make the visit? Did you meet with that alum down in Chicago? And how did it go? Did you send a thank you email or letter or note after that? Those are extremely important items that they're going to take into account and log when they make the final decision on if you're admitted or not. Okay, so you're admitted through the fall. October 1st is the start of the FAFSA. The FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. It's this online government form at fafsa.gov, which then leads you to studentaid.gov. It's not as bad as it sounds. It's almost more difficult for the parent and the student to get their FSA ID so that you can electronically sign it at the end of the FAFSA. Now, there's some interesting items coming down the pipeline later this year that could change the FAFSA. Of course, it's the government, so they don't tell you exactly what those changes are going to be. Apparently, it's supposed to make it easier for families to fill out. Of course it does. One of them might be where it's optional now is to use what's called the data retrieval tool. So if you e-file your taxes online or if your accountant e-files online for you, you could go into the IRS cloud and attach, let's call your social security number to it, and when your student applies and you put St. Norbert or other schools down on the FAFSA, immediately it can pull all of your data into your FAFSA so you don't screw up any numbers. You don't accidentally put parent income in student income. You don't actually get excited and put 11 kids versus your 1 kid. That makes a huge difference in regards to how the FAFSA is going to come out with what used to be called the EFC, the Expected Family Contribution. That's one number, really the only number anyone cares about in the student aid report at the end of the FAFSA that tells us how much your family can help the student pay to go to college. I don't get to see that number. I don't get to see any of your FAFSA information. That's kept in our financial aid office where they're building the financial aid package. I only get a copy of the package to then go over with you if you have questions line for line, okay? 5 minutes. Okay, sounds good. So change is coming. It's going to be called the Student Aid Index, not the EFC, apparently. Again, they could change that too. The CSS profile, the College Scholarship Service Profile. This is an additional form through College Board that, as I mentioned before, schools that say they meet 100% of need because they have a larger endowment to be able to cover that. Also, as I mentioned too, the FAFSA is a little gray. There's some things you don't have to include, so families shouldn't. The CSS kind of cuts through all of that. The FAFSA doesn't look at the home that you live in. They only look at additional assets, like if you have a lake home up north. If you own more than 50% of your company, the FAFSA doesn't look at any of your business. The CSS does. They look at what your home's worth. They look at your bank statements. The FAFSA only looks at what your checking and savings account looks like the day that you file the FAFSA. So you might do something a day or two before, maybe a big purchase or move something over. I didn't say that. The CSS sees that to make a more accurate, let's say, decision on what you would be willing or not willing to pay for your son or daughter's education. On the other hand, the CSS also looks at how much you're paying for all of your children to go to a Catholic school. What did braces cost? Any medical bills? The FAFSA only looks up to if it's beyond 20% of your medical bills from what you make of your income. The CSS looks at a lot more into that. So for the most part, families aren't excited about the CSS. Sometimes it could actually help. Okay. Becky mentioned all of these really good opportunities this spring for applying for scholarships. Fastweb.com is also a much more generic area that students can go to. I highly suggest that you create a separate email address for something like this, because while it's free and you set up a profile and they send you scholarships from around the U.S. based on everything you included in that profile, probably at least 1 out of every 3 emails that you're getting are ads. And that's really going to fill up your email box pretty quick. And then when you decide on what college you're planning on attending, everyone has an enrollment deposit. The larger the school, the more it could be refundable, because really it's just to hold a bed on that campus, like at Madison, for instance. For St. Norbert, it's $350 non-refundable, but we guarantee housing up until May 1st. So you have plenty of time to make the decision, and we suggest you don't put it in until you know for sure. Where other schools, once you're admitted, sometimes students put a refundable deposit in right away to ensure that they have a spot as you make the big decision once financial aid comes out in December and January of the student's senior year. Okay. One question that Becky asked, that a family asked, was about sports in regards to recruiting. I'm pretty close to the coaches at St. Norbert. We talked to them a lot about recruiting. We're Division III, so we don't have athletic scholarships, but that doesn't mean that just anyone can walk on and play on most of our sports teams, even at St. Norbert. I will say, especially with the internet these days, if you don't have a Huddle account or something similar to it, you're not going to get too far. You need to have film online, because that is where recruitment has gone in college. Even at St. Norbert, we have, I don't know, probably 8 or 9 assistant coaches in football that in between eating and playing video games in the office, they're watching Huddle film to then reach out to students in Detroit. in the Twin Cities, in Nebraska, in our two biggest states now for enrollment at St. Norbert outside of the 4 states here, Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, Illinois, is Texas and California. And half of those students don't play sports for us. They just found us because of the internet and because they want to see 4 seasons for some of them. So keep that in mind. I mean, with athletics, the other big thing is reaching out to those schools with a recruitment form. Every single team at St. Norbert has a recruitment form that you can fill out to be able to get on their recruitment list and get a good feeling for the type of athlete that they're looking for, but also obviously if St. Norbert is a good fit for you too. Division I, I mean, you're juniors now, you probably should have heard from a coach by now of interest in looking at a Division I scholarship. I mean, that's pretty much the way the game works for D1. As you get to senior year, it's more the D2 or the D3 route from that perspective. Okay. Thank you very much. Absolutely, yeah.
So thank you very much. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Email me or talk to me afterwards. But otherwise, you're free to go. Thank you very much.